Most people have never given a second thought to the small white crescent at the base of their fingernails. If you look at your thumb right now, and we want you to actually do this, you will likely see a pale whitish half-moon shape sitting just above where the nail meets the skin. It is called the lunula, from the Latin word for moon. And for most of your life, it has simply been there, unremarkable, unnoticed. But here is what almost no one over 60 has been told. Those little moons are not decorative. They are not random. They are a visible window into the health of your nail matrix, the tissue responsible for producing your nails. And through that, a reflection of circulation, thyroid function, nutritional status, and cardiovascular health. When they begin to shrink, fade, or disappear entirely from one or more fingers, your body is communicating something specific. A man in his early 70s noticed during a routine hand examination that his lunulae had completely disappeared from all fingers except his thumbs. He had assumed this was simply what happened as you got older. His doctor, when prompted to look, ordered a thyroid panel. His thyroid hormone levels came back significantly suppressed, a condition he had been living with, undiagnosed, for what was likely years. The fatigue he had dismissed as aging, the weight he could not shift despite trying, the persistent cold feeling in his hands and feet, all of it had a cause, and his nails had been quietly marking it the entire time. Today we are going to walk through 7 specific things the lunula, your nail moon, reveals when it changes, shrinks, or disappears. We will describe exactly what to look for, what each change traditionally signals, and what to do with that information. Check your hands as we go. This one is worth seeing for yourself in real time. Signal 1, lunulae, missing from all fingers, except the thumbs. Let us start with the most common pattern, because it is the one that causes the most confusion. In a healthy adult, the lunula is most visible on the thumb, moderately visible on the index and middle fingers, and often faint or absent on the ring and pinky fingers. That is entirely normal. The lunula is naturally largest at the thumb and progressively smaller toward the outer fingers because the nail matrix, the growth center, is proportionally larger on the thumb. So if you look at your hand and see a moon only on your thumbs, that alone is not necessarily alarming. But if you look at your hand and see no lunulae anywhere, not even on the thumbs, or if lunulae that were clearly visible even a few years ago have now completely vanished, that disappearance is the signal. When the lunula shrinks or disappears across multiple fingers, including the thumb, it most commonly reflects one of 2 things: a slowdown in nail matrix activity due to reduced circulation reaching the fingertips, or a systemic condition affecting the body's regenerative capacity. Both of these deserve investigation. Neither should be attributed to normal aging without at least ruling out the conditions we are about to cover. Signal 2, disappearing lunulae and the thyroid connection. Of all the conditions associated with shrinking or absent nail moons, hypothyroidism, an underactive thyroid gland, is among the most frequently overlooked. The thyroid regulates metabolism throughout the entire body. When thyroid hormone output drops, cellular activity slows down across every tissue, including the nail matrix. The nails themselves may grow more slowly, become more brittle, and develop a dull appearance. And the lunula, which requires active, healthy nail matrix tissue to remain visible, may begin to shrink and eventually disappear. Hypothyroidism is extraordinarily common in adults over 60. Conservative estimates suggest that between 10 and 15% of older adults have some degree of thyroid underfunction, and a significant portion of those cases are undiagnosed or undertreated. Women are affected at roughly 5 to 8 times the rate of men. The classic symptoms: fatigue, unexplained weight gain, feeling cold when others are comfortable, constipation, dry skin, thinning hair at the outer eyebrows, brain fog, and slow heart rate, are individually easy to dismiss as normal aging. Taken together, they form a recognizable pattern. And the disappearing nail moon is one more piece of that pattern. If your lunulae have been shrinking and you recognize even 2 or 3 of those other symptoms, request a full thyroid panel at your next appointment. Ask specifically for TSH, free T3, and free T4. A TSH result alone can miss cases that free T3 and T4 would catch. Signal 3. Pale or absent lunulae and iron deficiency anemia. The lunula gets its white color from the thicker layer of cells in the nail matrix at the base of the nail. For that white color to remain visible, the tissue needs adequate blood supply, and the blood itself needs to be carrying sufficient hemoglobin, the protein that transports oxygen through red blood cells. When iron stores are depleted and hemoglobin drops, the blood becomes less capable of delivering oxygen efficiently to peripheral tissues, including the fingertips. The nail matrix becomes less active. The lunula fades. Iron deficiency anemia is one of the most common nutritional deficiencies in adults over 60, particularly in women and in people with chronic low-level gastrointestinal bleeding, which itself can be silent and painless for long periods of time. If your lunulae are fading alongside other signs, pale inner eyelids, unusual fatigue, shortness of breath on mild exertion, brittle nails, hair thinning, or a sore, smooth tongue, iron deficiency anemia should be among the first things ruled out with a complete blood count and ferritin level. Do not accept a hemoglobin result alone as sufficient. Ferritin, the storage form of iron, can be critically low even when hemoglobin appears borderline normal. Ask for ferritin specifically. Signal 4. Absent lunulae and poor peripheral circulation. Your fingertips are at the very end of your circulatory system's reach. They are the last place oxygenated blood arrives, and the first place circulation problems become visible. When the cardiovascular system is under strain, whether from arterial stiffening, narrowing of peripheral blood vessels, early heart failure, or simply chronically low blood pressure, the blood flow to the extremities diminishes. The fingernails, as peripheral tissues, reflect this reduced supply. Nails that receive poor circulation may grow slowly, appear dull, feel cooler to the touch, and show shrinking or absent lunulae. The nails themselves may take on a slightly bluish tint at the base in more advanced cases. This signal becomes particularly meaningful when paired with other circulation-related observations. Consistently cold hands, even in warm environments, a feeling of numbness or tingling in the fingers, visible veins that seem less prominent than they once were, or slow wound healing on the hands. If you recognize this pattern, it is worth discussing peripheral vascular health with your doctor. An ankle brachial index test, a simple, non-invasive comparison of blood pressure at the ankle versus the arm, can give a useful picture of how well circulation is reaching the extremities. Signal 5. Lunulae that have turned red or red-brown. We have been focusing on disappearing lunulae, but a lunula that changes color rather than simply fading is a separate and important signal. A lunula that has taken on a reddish or red-brown tint rather than the normal clean white has been associated in medical literature with cardiovascular stress, particularly with certain forms of heart failure and with conditions that cause elevated pressure in the small blood vessels near the nail matrix. This reddened lunula appearance is sometimes called a red lunula, and while it is relatively rare, it has been documented in cases of cardiac failure, liver cirrhosis, and certain autoimmune conditions, including rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. If you notice that your lunulae, rather than fading, have taken on any reddish coloration, this is a specific finding worth photographing and bringing to your doctor's attention. It is not a common variation of normal. Signal 6. Disappearing lunulae. Alongside nail texture changes. The lunula does not exist in isolation. When it disappears, pay attention to what else is happening to the nail at the same time, because the combination of signals tells a more complete story than any single change alone. Nails that are simultaneously losing their lunulae and becoming more brittle, more prone to peeling in layers, or developing longitudinal ridges running from base to tip, those ridges are called onychorexis, often reflect a nutritional picture. B12 deficiency, biotin insufficiency, and protein malnutrition each produce distinctive nail texture changes alongside reduced lunula visibility. Nails losing their moons while also developing a yellowish color and thickening may point toward fungal infection in combination with lymphatic or respiratory issues, a triad sometimes called yellow nail syndrome that, despite its unremarkable name, can indicate underlying lung or lymphatic conditions in older adults. Nails losing their moons while also showing small white spots, not the lunula itself, but scattered white marks across the nail plate, may reflect zinc deficiency, which is common in older adults with reduced dietary intake or malabsorption. In each of these combinations, the disappearing lunula is not the only message. Read the whole nail. Signal 7. When only one nail, moon disappears. And what that means. Everything we have covered so far assumes the lunulae are shrinking across multiple fingers simultaneously. But what about when only one nail, one specific finger, loses its moon while the others remain? This asymmetric pattern carries a different meaning. When a single nail shows changes, including lunula disappearance, color change, or texture shift, while adjacent nails remain normal, the cause is more likely local than systemic. Local trauma to the nail matrix, a compressed nerve or blood vessel serving that specific finger, a localized infection, or in some cases a growth beneath the nail affecting the matrix, can all produce changes in one nail without affecting the others. A single nail that has lost its moon and also shows any darkness, discoloration beneath the nail plate, or a change in shape deserves a closer look from a dermatologist. A dark line running vertically from the base of the nail to the tip, called a melanonychia stripe, appearing in a nail that has also lost its lunula, is a combination that should always be professionally evaluated. Your nails do not change randomly. Every shift in their appearance, in color, texture, shape, or in those small white moons you may have never thought twice about, is biological information. Look at your hands again. Count the moons. Note which fingers have them clearly, which have them faintly, and which have none at all. Look at the color. Look at the texture. Look at whether anything has changed compared to what you remember. This is not a diagnostic exercise. This is the beginning of paying attention, the kind of attention that lets you walk into your doctor's office with something specific to say rather than a vague feeling that something might be off. Thyroid panels, iron studies, complete blood counts, circulation assessments. None of these are exotic tests. They are standard. But they only get ordered when someone asks. And now you know what to ask about. In our next video, we are going to look at something that appears in a completely different part of the body, the whites of your eyes, and the colors that show up there before serious conditions in your liver, your blood, and your cardiovascular system announce themselves any other way. You may want to find a mirror before we start.